Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private not-for-profit organization. As always, please feel free to contact us with your comments, suggestions, and questions you may have. And please stay with us. Reading the Buffalo News is coming up next.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Wednesday, July 15th, 2026. Your readers today are
Larry Beanon
and Linda Ranella. Starting with the weather report. Partly sunny, hot, and less humid today. Wildfire smoke can reduce air quality and cause a hazy sky. A high of 90. Partly cloudy tonight, low of 68. Cloudy to partly sunny tomorrow, a high of 86 and low of 65. For Friday, shifting clouds and sun, a high of 83 and low of 66. Saturday, a shower and thunderstorm, a high of 81, low of 66. Sunday, partly sunny, high of 80, low of 63. For Monday, an afternoon thunderstorm possible, high of 81, low of 64. And for Tuesday, a thunderstorm or two, a high of 75, low of 62. Pollen count today is low, and sunrise today was at 5:50 a.m. and sunset tonight is at 8:52 p.m. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Our opening story. Data center moratorium disrupts plans in WNY. Planned facilities in Portland, former Tonawanda Coke site, are in limbo. Governor Kathy Hochul's one-year moratorium on data center development statewide will have sweeping implications across western New York. The executive order she signed Tuesday puts up a stop sign, at least temporarily, for a $2 billion project identified for the former Tonawanda Coke site and a data center talked about for the town of Portland in Chautauqua County. The impact on Stream's proposed $19.5 billion complex in Genesee County was less clear. A Stream representative said the company was reviewing the executive order and did not provide a comment. The moratorium does not affect TeraWulf's Lake Mariner project in Niagara County, according to the company. Lake Mariner is already operational and our expansion supporting FluidStack and Google is fully permitted, said Carrie Langlace, TeraWulf's chief strategy officer. In many respects, the executive order further underscores the strategic value of existing power-secured, development-ready infrastructure. The company has spent millions of dollars to equip its data center in the town of Somerset. TeraWulf hasn't paid sales tax on those purchases, citing an exemption stemming from a law passed in the early 2000s. Niagara County is considering filing a lawsuit to collect sales taxes it believed it is owed. Hochul on Tuesday said she is pursuing legislation to repeal the sales tax exemption for massive data centers. The moratorium also contains an exemption for data centers for educational purposes, so it does not affect the University of Buffalo's plans for a supercomputing center on its North Campus to support the state's Empire AI initiative. Hochul signed the executive order amid backlash to data centers in a number of communities. Opponents have raised fears about the project's impact on land use, utility bills, water consumption, and the environment. The governor, in a statement, echoed these concerns. As data center development threatens to hike up utility bills, deplete our natural resources, and create uncertainty for New Yorkers, it is my responsibility to take action and lead, she said. New York will lead the way in creating the strongest standards in the nation for data center development, ensuring that when companies succeed because of New York, New Yorkers succeed too. The moratorium, the first such statewide action across the nation, applies to projects that haven't already obtained the necessary environmental permits to move forward. Projects that have completed their environmental permitting can proceed unaffected by the moratorium. In the town of Tonawanda, developers John Williams and John Jensen had unveiled a plan for a 495,000 square foot data center at the former Tonawanda Coke site, a project valued at $2 billion. But in June, the developers asked the town's planning board to pause its review process. The developer said it was still waiting for specifics on the availability of electricity required to power the data center and on any needed upgrades to the site's infrastructure. Even with the pause, opponents spoke out against the project at a planning board meeting. Williams on Tuesday said the items identified in Hochul's executive order are the same items that need to be considered before citing any industrial complex, whether a data center, an automobile factory, or a refrigerator warehouse for yogurt. I hope the executive order is designed to allow New York State to develop a qualitative process by which the state and local communities can evaluate the benefits of a project against its actual impacts, and not simply a reaction to vocal opposition against one specific industry that is more political than factual, Williams said. The town of Tonawanda had been considering a 6-month moratorium on data center development before Hochul announced her executive order, said town supervisor John Flynn. Obviously, Tuesday's news changes all that, he said. The bottom line is that there's going to be a year moratorium now, which I think is good, Flynn said. I think it gives us time now for the state, who really needs to be the leader on this, to do a statewide study of how these data centers affect the electric grid. In Genesee County, Dallas-based Stream has proposed a complex spanning 2.2 million square feet, equivalent to about 22 Home Depot stores in the Advanced Science, Technology, and Advanced Manufacturing Park, or STAMP. The project would use 500 megawatts of electricity. Critics have raised concerns about the environmental impact, as well as for the potential for the Genesee County Economic Development Center to award $1.4 billion in tax breaks in exchange for just 125 jobs, a subsidy that equals more than $1 million for each job that would be created. Stream has said its project would provide high-paying jobs and generate an estimated $550 million over 30 years in new tax revenues and direct payments to local municipalities and schools, which the community can use to make other investments to support future economic development. Stream officials have also said they are striving to minimize the project's physical and noise impact on its surroundings. Genesee County Economic Development Center officials did not provide a comment on Tuesday on how the moratorium would affect the Stream project. The Tonawanda Seneca Nation, which has been outspoken against the Stream project, praised the moratorium. We urge GCEDC, the stamp developer, to use the moratorium pause to conduct its own environmental impact study of the possible impacts of data centers at STAMP, something the State Department of Environmental Conservation first called upon GCEDC to do over 6 months ago, but which GCEDC has thus far refused to do, said Sarah Howard, environmental consultant to the Tonawanda Seneca Nation. Even before Hochul's executive order was announced, the Sierra Club and the Tonawanda Seneca Nation took legal action that would block industrial development at STAMP. They filed a lawsuit in state Supreme Court challenging a zoning agreement between the town of Alabama and the Genesee County Economic Development Center that facilitates development of STAMP. Details are scant about the data center talked about for the town of Portland. The project would be built on 44 acres that used to house the Sugar Hill Golf Course. The property owner has said he has received interest from what he called a major data center developer. Residents have objected to the idea. Governor Kathy Hochul's signing of the statewide moratorium on hyperscale data centers is a welcome relief for the Grape Belt Community Group as it holds off any development on the Sugar Hill site, said Kelly Perlette, a member of the community group. The pause gives us vital time to work alongside our town officials and the property owner, who has indicated an openness to alternate ideas to find better suited development for the land and our community. The moratorium also has its critics. While we understand there are some valid concerns about the data center development in New York State, many stemming from the state's self-inflicted power generation shortage, executive action to enforce a moratorium on the development or construction for up to 1 year sends mixed signals said Justin Wilcox, Executive Director of Upstate United, a business advocacy group. This will not only prolong uncertainty for companies looking to New York, but ultimately jeopardize the potential investment, economic development, and skilled jobs. While states like Virginia and Texas are far more likely to be approached by possible developers, the fact of the matter is that a statewide moratorium strips away local control and a community's ability to decide on projects that could be pivotal to their economic growth and job creation, Wilcox said. We simply cannot claim to be a state at the forefront of AI innovation if we preemptively turn down opportunities that would help ensure that to be true, he said. Mark McManus, General President of the United Association of Union Plumbers and Stream Fitters, called the moratorium short-sighted and said it kills good-paying union jobs. Rather than implementing guardrails to build the future of American ingenuity, Governor Hochul is taking her ball and going home, McManus said. We urge the governor to work with all parties, including the hard-working New Yorkers whose jobs are at stake, to implement common-sense guardrails. Data centers have become a hot-button topic at different levels of government. Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz has insisted that no data centers will receive tax breaks from the Erie County Industrial Development Agency while he remains in office.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Another article, this one about the governor's executive order bans data centers for 1 year. Governor Kathy Hochul signed an executive order Tuesday to impose a 1-year moratorium on data centers that use 50 or more megawatts of power, a move she said is due to concerns over the rapid growth and impact of the facilities that power artificial intelligence. Calling it the nation's first ban on hyperscale centers, aides to Hochul said she wanted to pause the approval of permits for the facilities to allow the state to establish a framework to protect the environment, electrical grid, and utility ratepayers. Operation of data centers requires massive amounts of energy in addition to water to cool servers. The delay could affect any proposed data center that does not already have a permit, including multiple proposals in Western New York. The executive order is similar to a bill, the Responsible Data Center Development Act, which passed both houses of the state legislature on June 4th. That proposal, if signed into law by Hochul, would also impose a 1-year moratorium on the development of any new data centers in New York. Aides to the governor said the executive order does not mean the bill would be vetoed. It will, however, go into effect immediately, where the governor has until the end of the year to sign or veto the bill. They said Hochul was feeling an urgency to get a framework in place now, prompting the need for an immediate ban. A sponsor of the bill, Senator Kristen Gonzalez, a Democrat who represents parts of Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens, praised the executive order on Tuesday. Data centers under 50 megawatts, which power facilities such as hospitals and academic institutions, were not included in the moratorium. On Tuesday, speaking at an event in Brooklyn, Hochul said the construction of massive data centers has sparked a debate due to the power needed for AI. These hyperscale AI data centers consume enormous amounts of power, truly threatening to outpace our grid's capacity, and they drive up costs for local ratepayers, Hochul said. And I refuse to let these costs be passed on to New Yorkers who already pay too much for their utility bills. Hochul said data centers require millions of gallons of water, can increase emissions from fossil fuels, occupy large spaces of land, and emit vibrations and noise disruptive to neighborhoods. The bottom line is progress shouldn't arrive with a higher utility bill, depleted water supply, or noise pollution, Hochul said. So we have no choice but to address these challenges created by these massive facilities. That is why today I'll be signing the nation's first ever statewide moratorium on hyperscale data centers. Hochul is expected to propose legislation next year to repeal sales tax exemptions for massive data centers around New York. Last week, the Buffalo News reported that under tax exemptions enacted during the administration of Governor George Pataki to support email and internet host operations, the state lost $12 million in would-be sales taxes from data centers this year. In Erie County, the Riverview Innovation and Technology Campus has planned to construct a 495,000 square foot data center at the former Tonawanda Coke factory on River Road, a project now paused. In Chautauqua County, a company has proposed building a data center at the former Sugar Hill Golf Course in Portland. In Genesee County, the Stream Data Center plans to construct a 500 megawatt data center complex in the Science, Technology, and Advanced Manufacturing Park, STAMP, in the town of Alabama. The governor, a Buffalo-born Democrat, is up for re-election this year, facing Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, a Republican. Asked about the governor's moratorium, Blakeman's campaign responded with a statement criticizing Hochul's record on economic development and energy costs. Blakeman said Hochul had failed to work with local governments and business leaders and promised to work with both entities and energy producers to lowest cost and create good jobs. Blakeman made no comment on the moratorium itself. Data centers have become a polarizing issue across the country, drawing both support and condemnation. The moratorium comes at a critical time as dozens of proposals have popped up across the state, and while summertime utility bills are soaring, Eric Woods, Senior Environmental Program Coordinator for the New York Public Interest Research Group. The state must work to address energy affordability while protecting New York's natural resources from being exploited. Hyperscale AI data centers are a threat to both, Woods said in a statement. Tech NYC, a nonprofit consortium of tech industry groups, said it appreciated Hochul paying attention to questions involving data centers, but opposed the moratorium. Also expressing opposition to the moratorium were Upstate United, a business advocacy group, Mark McManus, General President of the United Association of Union Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, and Carlo Cesura, President and CEO of the New York Building Congress, also voiced opposition. A short-sighted moratorium only accomplishes one thing: it kills good-paying union jobs, McManus said in a statement. Rather than implementing guardrails to build the future of American ingenuity, Governor Hochul is taking her ball and going home. We urge the governor to work with all parties, including the hardworking New Yorkers whose jobs are at stake, to implement common-sense guardrails. Cesura said organizations in his industry may not always agree but are united against the moratorium. And our message is simple: a blanket moratorium is the wrong tool for a real-world problem that demands careful consideration, he said in a statement. Aides to Hochul said the growth of AI created an exponential demand for data centers, which drew a patchwork of moratoriums amid concerns the facilities could drain community supplies of water, energy, and tax dollars. Hochul previously ordered the state's Department of Public Service to require data centers to pay more money for their energy or supply their own to keep ratepayers from bearing the cost. She is now directing her administration to develop a generic environmental impact statement on data centers, which is expected to take up to a year, to ensure the centers are held to a consistent standard. The study will assess the impact of data center construction and the impact on energy demand, water use, and air quality. Once the standards are complete, the aides said, the moratorium will be lifted. Hochul also asked the department to consider the creation of a New York Grid Acceleration Fund to require data centers to invest in the state's grid infrastructure and energy needs. Hochul additionally ordered the Empire State Development Agency to, within 60 days, advise local entities how to negotiate community benefits for any large-scale data center agreement. It would include investments in infrastructure, childcare, and financial aid, and involve labor unions. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Mubunga's shock resignation adds to trying times at BPS. Parent leaders stunned by his decision after just a year on the job. It has been a year of tumult in the Buffalo Public Schools. School closings are coming. A member of the school board quit and another is being investigated in connection with sexual harassment allegations. Its finances are precarious at best. But Monday brought perhaps the biggest shock of all when School Superintendent Pascal Mubunga, a quarter of the way through a 4-year contract, stunned the district, the school board, and the community by announcing his immediate resignation. The decision came during an unrelated Buffalo School Board meeting Monday night, when the 8 members returned from executive session to vote to accept Mbunga's resignation and approve the interim appointment of Ebony Prophet Bullock, District's Chief Accountability Officer. The board, in a statement through District spokesperson Jeffrey Hammond, did not give a reason for the superintendent's departure. Less than 24 hours after his resignation was accepted by the board, Mbunga offered only a written no comment in response to a question from the Buffalo News. This came as a surprise to us parent leaders, said Jessica Bauer Walker, co-chair of the Community Health Worker Parent and Student Association, a district-recognized parent group. We are disappointed with the ongoing and systemic dysfunction in the district that continues to derail opportunities for project. At the end of the day, it's the children and families who suffer the consequences. We are shocked that Dr. Mbunga resigned less than a year into his 4-year contract, said Daniel Grismala, co-chair of the Buffalo Parent Teacher Organization. At this point, we are looking for transparency in how the district plans to keep moving forward for our students. The departure of the city school district's leader, who oversees 60 schools and about 29,000 students, comes amid a period of tumult in the district's history. The school board in late June hired a third-party law firm to conduct an investigation into multiple allegations of sexual harassment by a board member to district staff members. As the board prepared to respond to the allegations, North District Board member Cindy McEachin on June 24 submitted her resignation, citing concerns with the board's transparency and decision-making. 2 days later, the board announced it had reached an agreement with Hodgson Russ LLP to investigate the sexual harassment claims. Buffalo Schools on Tuesday confirmed that Mbunga would not receive a buyout or severance money due to his contract. The board also agreed to waive the requirement for 90 days of advance notice prior to resignation. The clause for notice was intended to allow the superintendent to be part of developing and implementing a transition plan for the district and help a successor acclimate to the role according to Mbunga's contract. Mbunga received a $285,000 salary for the 25-26 according to his contract. Mbunga was sworn in to lead Buffalo Schools on July 22, 2025, and officially began his role in early August. He arrived in Buffalo after 6.5 years leading Durham Public Schools. He resigned there along with his chief financial officer after a budget conflict that involved rescinding pay raises for a group of employees, which sparked outrage. The Buffalo School Board had originally called a special meeting for Monday to evaluate applicants for the vacant North District seat. The board intends to announce on July 22nd the selection of the replacement board member, whose term will run for 2.5 years. In an interview near the end of the school year, Mbunga gave no hint of a possible exit from the district. He told the Buffalo News in early June that he was eager for a break over the summer, ahead of a daunting task in September to close at least 4 schools in the district. 2 members of the Buffalo School Board released statements after Mbunga's resignation. Talia Rodriguez, the board's West District representative, in a Facebook post said she was grateful for Mbunga's service to the district, while Ferry District Representative Stephen M. Wright thanked Mbunga for his service, leadership, and designation. I appreciate the professionalism and commitment he brought to the role, Wright wrote. Both board members shared their excitement about the interim appointment of Bullock, and Wright calling it a surreal moment. I now have the privilege of working alongside someone who was my teacher at Hamlin Park School 74, he wrote. To come full circle in this way is both humbling and inspiring, and it serves as a reminder of the latest impact that educators have on the lives of their students. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 9:24. Today in history. In 1806, U.S. Army Lieutenant Zebulon Pike and a group of men set out from Fort Bellefontaine in Missouri, near St. Louis, to explore the western and southern portions of the Louisiana Territory. In 1815, 6 weeks after his defeat at Waterloo in present-day Belgium, former French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte surrendered to British Captain Frederick Louis Maitland on the HMS Bellerophon. In 1834, the Spanish Inquisition was definitely dissolved by a decree from the Spanish Queen Regent Maria Cristina de Bourbon. In 1870, Georgia was permanently readmitted to the United States after the Civil War. In 1903, Ford Motor Company sold its first car via an order to a Chicago dentist who requested a Model A. In 1942, Nazi Germany began deporting Jews from the Netherlands to concentration camps and killing centers in Germany and Poland. More than 100,000 people from the country were sent to their deaths. In 1946, Sabah, Malaysia, previously known as the state of North Borneo, was annexed by a United Kingdom and became a crown colony. In 1997, Italian fashion mogul Gianni Versace was murdered in Miami Beach by Andrew Cunanan, who killed at least 5 people. And in 2006, Twitter, originally Twitter and now X, launched to the public. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. The local Buffalo News editorial. Build it up. New stadium needs more than just Bills games to fulfill its promise. Aside from activity on game days, how else will the Western New York community use the new Highmark Stadium? That's the big question. If this facility is able to transform the surrounding area into a year-round destination, it can truly be deemed a worthwhile investment. The Buffalo Bills have an opportunity to ensure the stadium becomes more than a home for football. They should seize it. For decades, fans arrived at Orchard Park, watched the game, and drove away. The game day experience has been among the NFL's best, but has done little to create a lasting economic impact for Orchard Park or neighboring Hamburg. As reported by the Buffalo News' Mike Petro, the Bills are considering mixed-use development on part of the former stadium site, including restaurants, retail, and entertainment venues, public gathering spaces, and other attractions. If those plans become reality, they could finally give Western New York the kind of stadium district that has become commonplace in many other towns with professional sports teams. A true mixed-use district would better position Buffalo to host events such as the NFL Draft, major concerts, international soccer matches, and outdoor hockey games, while giving visitors reasons to stay and places to stay. Bills officials have pointed to Titletown in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where developers partnered with the Packers to build mixed-use projects next to Lambeau Field. Today, the 45-acre entertainment and lifestyle district has become a model for many teams interested in similar transformation. Buffalo does not need to replicate Titletown, but it should embrace the vision. Bills President Pete Gwelly is right that Buffalo will need more attractions and places to stay if it hopes to host the NFL Draft in 29 or 30. Visitors need reasons to arrive early, stay late, and return even when football isn't being played. And though a state-of-the-art stadium and Family Circle Plaza open to the public are significant, they represent just a start. There needs to be more to bring major headline concerts and events, an NHL Stadium Series hockey game, and potential soccer exhibition games. The area needs more hotels. Orchard Park has just 3 small venues, making it difficult to support major events. More lodging must be a priority. To the Bills, credit they began thinking about surrounding development before construction even began. Officials carefully considered the stadium's placement and orientation on the west side of Abbott Road. They considered how the footprint of the Bills campus interacts with future development in the area and what it would take to bring people to the stadium when the Bills aren't playing. That long-term planning now needs to translate into projects that keep the district active throughout the year. The solution will require more deep thinking and strategizing. Orchard Park and Hamburg are already refining and passing laws to rezone the areas around the stadium to attract developers. It's another good start. The expected sale of SUNY Erie Community College's 102-acre South Campus in Hamburg by the end of the year or early next year could be another significant redevelopment opportunity, including the multi-story hotel the area badly needs. A great stadium is an asset. A great stadium district can become an economic engine. Western New York should settle for nothing less. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. The editorial cartoons, the first one is by Steve Breen of Creators Syndicate. and it shows a tall cliff, and halfway up the side of the cliff is a branch sticking out from the rocks, and there are 2 vultures on them. And having just, there's a figure of Donald Trump falling off the cliff, and the vultures look up, and there is a question for this cartoon. It says, was the Iran war a major foreign policy misstep? And the one vulture says to the other, what's Farsi for yes? The second cartoon is by Tom Stiglich, also a Creator Syndicate. And it shows Mayor Mendami of New York City, and he is standing in front of the stage. He's on stage for the musical Rent, but Rent is behind him, and there's written on the wall behind him, it said record high rent. And if you weren't aware of it, New York City Mayor Mandami made freezing the rent a major promise of his campaign. After taking office, he appointed new members to the New York City Rent Guidelines Board. In a 7-1 vote, the board approved a 0% increase in both 1-year and 2-year lease renewals. So, and as I say, he is standing on a stage and he is saying, enjoy the warmth of collectivism. And at the bottom, the sign reads, New York City, now through December 31st, 2029. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Everybody's column. Iran's situation was predictable. Diplomacy went out the window when the president decided to attack Iran. Thinking before acting would have been the better course of action, but alas, this is not the president's style. Evaluating consequences would have avoided a costly war which only solidified Iran's resolve rather than nullifying the perceived threat. Being the bull in the china shop did not pan out. It only turned those who may not have personal feelings about America into hardline haters, risking more domestic terrorism here at home than ever before. While the obvious solution would have been to create an international coalition to use diplomacy to resolve issues, Trump chose to act impulsively, thinking Iran would give in under pressure, not realizing that they had 47 years to plan for this day. If Iran did not have a nuclear device before, you can be sure they will strive to have one now, and with the aid from countries like China, Russia, and North Korea, will not hesitate to develop a means of delivery, and the mantra, death to America, may become more of a reality than a threat. Rule number 1. If you cannot finish what you start, Mr. President, then don't start at all. Rule number 2, think before you act. This from Charles Carter of Akron. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. Trump can afford to pay his debt to Carroll. A court said that Donald J. Trump had to pay E. Jean Carroll $5 million. He appealed that ruling, but he had to put the $5 million into escrow. Trump lost that appeal and those that followed. Finally, the Supreme Court wouldn't even hear his case. Trump has to pay Carroll the money, plus interest, that he has already put aside. So now Trump is asking the justices to reconsider his case. Give it a rest, Donald. Forbes says your net worth is $6.5 billion, so $5 million is 0.0077% of that. In comparison, Forbes also said the average American who is 75 and older has a net worth of $958,450. So 0.0077% of that figure is $738. I would think that if the average 75-plus-year-old put aside $738 in a cookie jar for a rainy day, and that day arrived in the form of a legally recognized debt, that they would not be hard-pressed to open the cookie jar and pay. But maybe you're worried about the other $83 million in a court says you owe Carroll for saying bad things about her after you were told not to do so. That's a much larger cookie jar. And this is written by Paul Shemkovitz of West Seneca. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Now is the time to quit using tobacco. Now that the 4th of July celebrations are behind us and summer activities are in full swing, it's a good time to think about our health. While smoking rates have declined, tobacco use remains a leading cause of preventable disease and death in New York State. Approximately 9.3% of New York adults smoke cigarettes and emerging nicotine products, such as vapes and nicotine pouches, continue to pose health risks and increase nicotine addiction particularly for youth and young adults. Summer gatherings and outdoor events can sometimes lead to increased tobacco or nicotine use. If you have been thinking about quitting, now is a great time to take the first step. Effective treatments, including counseling, nicotine replacement therapy, and FDA-approved medications, can significantly improve the chances of quitting successfully. Health Systems for a Tobacco-Free Western New York, HST-FWNY, encourages individuals to talk with their healthcare provider about quitting tobacco. Free support is also available through the New York State Quit line by calling 1-866-NY-QUITS or 1-866-697-8487 or visiting nyssmokefree.com. HSTF-WNY also supports healthcare providers by offering assistance and referral resources to help connect patients with evidence-based tobacco cessation services. Every quit attempt is a step toward better health. This summer, consider taking that step for yourself and your loved ones. This from Shannon Waddell Collins, MPA, TTS, Health Systems for Tobacco-Free Western New York of West Seneca. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Reading Service. The time is 9:36. Some opinion columns. This one is written by Susan Estrich of Creator Syndicate. Trump and Emmanuel are vastly different regarding diplomacy. Last Wednesday, Mr. Trump had a new word to describe our adversary's leader: scum. They're sick people, they're led by sick people, and they're vicious, violent people, he said, adding, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. So what are we supposed to do? What we did was hit them with two of the worst days of bombing since the war started. And what has that accomplished? Brought us to the brink, or back from the brink being the place that mediators between us and Iran say we are on, the brink of all-out, endless war, which feels like it never really stopped. Instead of facing our own problems and addressing them, President Trump led us in an unpopular war while gas prices and grocery checkouts go up. Unpopular wars make for unpopular presidents, which make for bad electoral outcomes. Sooner or later, Trump is going to have to deal with the men he calls scum, or some of them. Calling them names will not strengthen his hand. His version of diplomacy looks more like the moves of a weaker hand. Pursuing military strength without, at the same time, pursuing peace leads to a dead end. That was, coincidentally perhaps, the message of former Chicago mayor, congressman, and Obama chief of staff Raul Emanuel, who went to Tel Aviv to bring home his criticism of Benjamin Netanyahu and his government. The prime minister and his government have led Israel into a dead end, Emanuel said. Citing the importance of pursuing both military strength and peace talks, he added, Prime Minister Netanyahu has done the former to the exclusion of the latter, and as a direct result, support for Israel is plummeting around the world. Emanuel was voicing the opinion of most American Jews when he made clear his criticism of Netanyahu and his endless wars. He criticized Netanyahu for playing partisan politics with the GOP rather than maintaining the bipartisan support for Israel of the past. Netanyahu did not, of course, respond. Some of his allies reportedly claimed that Rahm was not important enough to respond to. On that, they are clearly wrong. Rahm should never be underestimated, and the movement he speaks for is only growing. Others tried to paint him into a corner. As one advisor to Netanyahu posted, there will be a place for Rahm Emanuel in between Karl Marx and Bernie Sanders when the next edition of The Vanishing Jew is published. But Rahm Emanuel is far from a self-hating Jew. His father was born in Jerusalem. He has strong ties to Israel. His opposition to Netanyahu is shared by a majority of American Jews, who also express concern about Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza and its engaging in war crimes. A significant minority thinks Israel engaged in genocide. Younger American Jews, ages 18 to 34, are less attached emotionally to Israel and more likely to be critical. We need a negotiated solution with Iran. Israel needs to negotiate a resolution with its neighbors. Name-calling has never been a preferred tactic of experienced negotiators, and Trump is hardly proof of a new lesson in that regard. Accuse Rahm Emanuel of many things, but no one has ever said that he's not a smart politician. That's what he's saying. What he's saying right now is smart, and it's smart politics. What Trump's saying is not. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Following is my view, and it is written by Edna Heyer of Orchard Park, who has some things on her mind. A rant about driving and littering. When I told my daughter I was thinking of doing another My View article, she said, "What are you complaining about now?" Me complain? Oh yes, she's my daughter. She's used to hearing, "Why can't you hang up your clothes?" Or "Remember to make your bed." Or "Put the top back on the peanut butter jar." Oh wait, that's her brother. My first complaint, why can't car drivers remember to turn on their lights? I don't just mean when it's raining, but anytime it's cloudy or hazy. I call them ghost cars. They zoom up at you out of nowhere. Once, when it was snowing really hard, a white car with no lights on zoomed up beside me. The car was almost invisible. Some modern car manufacturers realize that some of their buyers aren't too smart and put automatic running lights on their cars. If drivers don't know better about the need for lights, they need to post this sign in their cars. Lights are meant for you to be seen, not to see. The next complaint is about turn signals. So many drivers don't use them at all or turn them on just as they are turning. Once, when I was walking, I stepped onto a driveway as a car coming toward me. We don't have sidewalks here to let it pass. They stopped and I waved them on. He rolled down his window and said he was turning in there. What could I say? "I'm sorry, I didn't see your turn signal." On the other hand, there are those who never turn off their turn signal. I have followed cars all the way to Batavia, waiting for them to turn, but they never do. I guess they would like the little clicking noise. Maybe their radio doesn't work and they provide themselves with a little company. Another complaint. The Brits, that's what I call people who walk on the right side with their back to traffic. I probably wouldn't be here writing this if I hadn't been following that method. We don't have sidewalks here, so you have to walk on the side of the road. I was walking facing traffic one afternoon when I saw a red car coming toward me, which didn't seem to be moving over. So I hopped over the gutter and onto the lawn as the car went right over where I had been walking. The young girl driving was texting away and never saw me, so I walked left. I wondered why so many people insist on walking on the right. I've been told that they teach them in school. Others have told me they don't know right from left. Maybe they should just learn to walk facing traffic and then they'd be safe wherever they are. Great Britain, Japan, anywhere. The last complaint I have today is people who litter. You see scraps of paper everywhere. I remember hollering at a friend as she tossed a dirty napkin out of my car window as we were driving. She said it was just a little piece of paper. I said if everybody did just a little piece of paper, we soon wouldn't be able to see the ground. I'm sure I could find more things to complain about if I thought about it for a moment. Like, who throws their empty cups on the ground instead of in the trash? Or smokers who scatter their cigarette butts everywhere. Smoking is bad enough. Don't make it worse by littering. Oh wait, who put the empty peanut butter jar back in the cupboard? Son, I did, but I put the lid back on, didn't I?
Thank you, Larry. Some business and financial news. Former Catholic school revived as new housing. A former Catholic elementary school in Kenmore that was closed in 2010 is now being transformed into an affordable senior housing community that will bring 37 new accessible units to the village. Dr. Greg Daniels, Kanaka Partners, together with Belmont Housing Resources for Western New York, is spending $13.8 million to convert the former St. Paul's School at 45 Boulevard into Victoria Place apartments. The partners announced the start of construction on Monday. The project is designed to preserve a landmark in the community while also providing much-needed housing for seniors that will allow them to live independently while remaining in their neighborhood. This project has required years of persistence, cooperation, and careful planning, and we are extremely pleased to begin construction, Daniel said. Victoria Place will provide seniors with high-quality, affordable homes in a secure and thoughtfully designed community while preserving a building that has long been part of Kenmore's history. The project will feature 31 and 7 two-bedroom units, as well as common areas with reasonable accommodations and modifications for those with disabilities. Victoria Place is about much more than restoring a building, Daniel said. It's about creating a stable and affordable community for seniors and returning a significant historic property to productive community use. The project will be financed using $7.4 million in low-income housing tax credits, $3.3 million in historic tax credits, $3.2 million from the New York State Housing Trust Fund under Homes and Community Renewal, $500,000 in American Rescue Plan Act money from Erie County as a subordinate loan, $516,000 in home funds from the town of Tonawanda, and construction financing from Citizens Bank, in addition to developer equity. As a result of the state funding, all apartments are being income restricted, with 10 units reserved for households earning no more than 50% of the area median income, while 27 will be designated for households earning no more than 60% of area median income. There are no application or screening fees, and Section 8 housing vouchers from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development will be considered. This is a building that was closed in 2010, so it's just been sitting there and deteriorating, Daniel said. Kanaka Construction Management, an affiliate of the construction firm, will serve as general contractor, while Belmont will manage the property, select residents, and ensure compliance with affordable housing regulations. More information about applications, income eligibility, the lottery process, and anticipated opening and occupancy will be announced later. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Nation's movie theaters may be squeezed with merger. States suing to block Paramount merger with Warner Brothers Discovery argue that the deal could squeeze local movie theaters, which are still struggling to sell as many tickets as they did before the pandemic. While ticket prices will most likely go up, theaters will be forced to cut back on investments that make the experience better for audiences: comfier seats, expanded concessions, and premium screens, California Attorney General Ron Bota said. If completed, the merger would combine two of the nation's 5 major film distributors and further concentrate ownership of cable television networks. The new entity would have unfair bargaining advantage over theater owners and pay TV operators, according to the complaint. With fewer film distributors, studios could find it easier to pressure theater owners for a greater share of ticket revenue, alleges the complaint, filed by California and 11 other states, including New York, Oregon, and Minnesota. Basic cable TV providers would also lose leverage, the state said. The deal would concentrate Paramount's market power in both movie theaters and in basic cable to more than 27% each, according to the complaint. Your cable bill is going to go up because those cable companies that distribute the channels will have less negotiating power, said Bonta. Paramount, led by CEO David Ellison, issued a statement saying the lawsuit distorts settled antitrust law and is based on a misrepresentation of competition in the entertainment industry. Delaying the transaction will only harm entertainment workers who have already suffered over recent years as technology has disrupted their livelihood and cost California tens of thousands of entertainment jobs, Paramount said. Delaying the deal will also be costly for Paramount. Ellison has agreed to pay Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders a 25-cent per share ticketing fee amounting to about $650 million in cash each quarter if the deal does not close before October. Cinema United, a trade group for theater owners that had been lobbying against the deal, welcomed the lawsuit. The ramifications of further movie studio consolidation will be significant and lasting, not just in Hollywood, but on Main Street, across this nation, where local movie theaters serve as cultural and financial cornerstones for communities of all sizes. Cinema United President and CEO Michael O'Leary said in a statement. One executive with an independent theater chain who asked not to be named worried that a combined Paramount and Warner Brothers would raise the rental fee for theater owners to pay to show the blockbuster films that attract large audiences. Studios and theaters have traditionally split the proceeds from movie ticket sales evenly through studios can command as much as 60% of proceeds for highly anticipated movies.
Thank you, Larry. As part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Zeisky, Phyllis A., née Perry. Fiorella, Dennis. Herky, Marcella Marge, née Shatner. Holt, Terry W. III, TJ. Jones Jr., David. O'Brien, Michael Patrick Christopher. Perry, William. Plazaskowitz, Cecilia, née Sagan. Schimmel, Thomas. Siemens, Stephanie E., née Evans. Tomzak, Eugene, Jean. Treese, Christopher. Van Splendor, Harold W., Sonny. And John Grizzetti, an actor featured in Amazon Prime's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and several Broadway productions, died July 10th at 44. Broadway veteran and Avenue Q star Robert McClure announced Grisanti's death on the Instagram Sunday, revealing Grisanti had died of a suicide. If you need further information on any of these names, give us a call at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Following is Royal Stars. Happy birthday for Wednesday, July 15, 2026. You are imaginative, innovative, and empathetic. You have astute analytical abilities. Exciting changes will bring increased personal freedom this year. Stay flexible and let go of things that have held you back. Seek out new opportunities to be ready to act fast on them. Trust your intuition. Travel is likely. Aries, 5 stars. An unusual idea or an unexpected event might take you into an entirely new headspace today. Tonight, socialize. Taurus, 4 stars. You are certainly aware of the value of wealth in practical terms. However, today you might receive a new interpretation of the energy of wealth. Tonight, relax at home. Gemini, 4 stars. Something might occur today that makes you more deeply appreciate a friend or a group to which you might belong. Tonight, discussions. Cancer, 4 stars. Today, you might be admired for taking a stand on a certain issue or speaking up about something that is important to you. Tonight, check your belongings. Leo, 5 stars. Some kind of subtle shift might take place that prompts you to think about a different future for yourself or perhaps a different path. Tonight, you're powerful. Virgo, 4 stars. With Venus in your sign, you are gracious and diplomatic, which is a good thing because a boss, parent, or someone in authority might do something that catches you off guard. Tonight, enjoy privacy. Libra, people admire you right now with your 4 stars. In an unexpected way, something related to travel, further education, medicine, or the law might catch you off guard and open new worlds for you. Tonight, be friendly. Scorpio, 4 stars. Be aware that people notice you today. Perhaps this is because something unexpected benefits you, an inheritance, bonus, gift, or the indirect benefit through a partner or friend. Tonight, you're admired. Sagittarius, 5 stars. Listen to the ideas of partners, spouses, and close friends because they might be the source of something that can lead to a positive shift in your life. Tonight, explore. Capricorn, 4 stars. Something related to your health, your job, or even a pet might have the power to inspire you to consider something in a new light. Tonight, check your finances. Aquarius, 4 stars. You might feel more inspired by romance or something related to kids that lifts you to a new level of appreciation and ambition. Tonight, cooperate. Pisces, 4 stars. Your appreciation of the value of home and family might take on a new level, meaning today you might suddenly grasp something important. Tonight, get organized. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. Hints from Heloise, getting mold out of your washcloths. Dear Heloise, how do I get mold out of my washcloths without taking out the color? Everything I find online includes bleach, which ruins my washcloths. Also, how do I prevent it from happening in the first place? I wring them out as tight as I can after using them and hang them up to dry on top of my shower enclosure. And that's from Kathy. Kathy, first, wash all your washcloths in hot water with 1 cup of white distilled vinegar. Don't add soap or softener. Next, sprinkle 1 cup of baking soda on the wet washcloths and wash them again in hot water to neutralize the odor. Afterwards, dry them immediately in a hot dryer. Don't leave the washcloths in the dryer and make sure they're completely dry. Don't use a washcloth for more than a day or two before washing it again. The air in your bathroom may hold moisture, which will help keep the fabrics damp and encourage mildew and mold growth. Airflow in a bathroom is very important. That was from Heloise. Hire a sitter. Dear Heloise, in response to a faithful reader's complaint about toddlers being disruptive at weddings in a recent column, let me make a suggestion. When one of my sons got married, I secured the services of a babysitter during the out-of-town rehearsal dinner. I provided her with coloring books and crayons, and I positioned her in another room at the facility. Guests signed their children in with her, leaving her their cell phone numbers so that she could text them in case of an emergency. It worked beautifully. Why not do the same for these wedding guests? Some facilities offer such services for a small fee. Thanks for all your hints. That's from a reader. No house keys attached. Dear Heloise, whenever I take my car for service, the key fob that I leave with the tech is the one that doesn't have my house key attached. Not that I patronize a shady service station. I simply think being extra cautious is best. And that's from Lynn. Lynn, being careful is always a good idea. You don't know everyone who walks into the business or everyone who works there. So being extra cautious is a wise move. And the word like. Dear Heloise, I was so pleased to see your note about the way some people use the word like. For the past couple of years, I've had to listen to the way some people consistently say the L word over and over, which is worse than nails on a chalkbook for me. Even worse yet, some well-known people, including but not limited to actors, entertainers, talk show hosts, and more, whom we might expect to know better, are as guilty of using it as some 7-year-olds. What's happened? What's with the dumbing down of Americans? From Sandy. Sandy, here at Heloise Central, we get tons of letters asking why our educational institutions have allowed certain changes in education that make us appear uneducated and lazy instead of requiring students to improve their skills. Does anyone out there want to add their opinion on the American educational system? If you are a school teacher, we'd love to hear your views on the subject, and that's by Heloise. Larry?
Oh, it's like I would like to comment on the like comment. From Digest. Report, clean energy delay $83 billion in investment. Those cuts. Trump administration policies that scaled back federal support for clean energy led to the cancellation or delay of $83 billion in investment projects, according to a report released by the Tuesday by the Environmental Coalition Blue-Green Analysis. They found that 23 manufacturing and clean energy products representing $82.9 billion in investment and 111,763 jobs have stalled or been canceled during President Donald Trump's second presidency.
Thank you, Larry. You're listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for Wednesday, July 15th on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. We'll return for more readings after the short break. Your readers today are
Larry Bina
and Linda Ranella.
Hello, listeners. Give 716 is happening now. It's an online fundraiser sponsored by the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres Foundations with dozens of prizes and matching grants available to make your donation to Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service go farther. You'll find a complete list on our Facebook page, but here's what I suggest. Mark your calendar for Thursday, July 16th from 8 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. If you make any size donation to radio reading on Thursday, July 16th from 8 p.m. to 11:59 p.m., we'll automatically enter you in a drawing for a pair of Buffalo Bison's tickets, redeemable for a Tuesday through Thursday home game before August 31st. If you donate $50 or more, you'll also receive your choice of a Buffalo Bills, Sabres, or Bandits pendant and a chance to win an even grander golden ticket one-of-a-kind experience from the Bills and Sabres, like tickets, private tours, and autographed team merchandise. You can go to give716.org anytime before July 17th to make a donation to Radio Reading. Make a donation on Thursday, July 16th from 8 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. to win the extra prizes. That's give716.org. Search for your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service and make a very important donation supporting our future.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Linda Ranella.
and Larry Beanman.
On to some local and regional news. Hochul seeks EPA's help with radiation in Niagara County. Following pressure from Niagara County residents, Governor Kathy Hochul on Tuesday called on the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to aid the state in its investigation of radiological contamination in western New York. Hochul's overture to EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin follows the revelation that the State Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Health, and EPA have been searching for radiation in western New York since flyover surveys began in October 2023. Last summer, the agencies conducted vehicle-based surveys in Erie and Niagara counties. In May, the agencies sent letters to 120 western Niagara County property owners alerting them that there may be radioactive waste on their land, likely from radioactive slag, a byproduct of the chemical and metals manufacturing industry. The letters requested that property owners grant the agencies access so they could conduct further investigation. As you are aware, the objective of this project is to identify any areas of potential radiological contamination based on the use and distribution of byproducts and waste material containing radiological material, Hochul wrote in her letter to Zeldin. Niagara and Erie County residents deserve answers and to know the federal government's plans for remediation and relocation if results require that outcome. Residents have decried the state and federal agencies' lack of transparency after they received letters. Requests by residents and the Buffalo News for survey data showing the levels of radiation detected on Niagara County properties has so far been denied. Hochul's letter follows an outcry from residents Carolyn Johnson and Lexi Hawk, who live in a neighborhood just south of Reservoir State Park in the town of Niagara. Both received letters from the agencies in May requesting access for further investigation of possible radiological materials on their properties. The residents sent a letter to Hochul on July 7th requesting a meeting to discuss their concerns with the process undertaken to alert the homeowners of the radioactive materials in their yards. They also requested her office send them copies of the results from the flyover and vehicle-based surveys, relocate them to new homes, and designate their neighborhood a Superfund site. The residents also asked Hochul provide whatever information is needed or necessary for the federal government to be involved, according to their July 7th letter. In her letter, Hochul said she is hearing directly from frustrated property owners who demand real answers about potential radiological contaminants in their backyards. Asking these families to wait months or years for peace of mind or to learn about a potential risk to their health is simply too great a burden. This administration has demonstrated an ability to move quickly and not be hamstrung by agency delays, Hochul's letter continued. You must use your authority to expedite this project so no one deserves to live with uncertainty while the wheels of federal bureaucracy turn too slowly. Hochul noted that reviews by the state indicate there are no acute health risks on publicly accessible right-of-ways in the survey area. However, the survey data gathered is still awaiting close analysis by EPA, the letter said. The EPA must urgently expedite the analysis of this data and where deemed necessary in coordination with experts at DEC and the state's Department of Health, move quickly to initiate any additional testing and cleanup activities required to ensure the long-term health of residents, the letter said. Hochul concluded the letter by noting she expects the EPA to make available all resources necessary to analyze data and, if identified, expeditiously remediate any areas of concern. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. BPD's Macy in concerning video seen shoving woman. Deputy Police Commissioner Craig Macy shoved a woman to the ground on Chippewa Street during a chaotic scene in a video circulating on social media, and the department is reviewing the incident. The incident happened during crowd clearance with several officers around Macy. Several violent incidents occurred over the weekend downtown, including a shooting. In a written statement, Buffalo Police Commissioner Erica Shields said the department is in the process of collecting and reviewing information. The social media video clip circulating of Deputy Commissioner Macy during the disturbances on Chippewa Street Saturday night is concerning, Shields said. Initially, the department said officials would not comment further until the review is complete. But late Tuesday afternoon, the department released video from Macy's body camera, which showed the woman falling to the ground. In a statement accompanying the video, Shields said, "I am releasing the body-worn camera footage from Deputy Commissioner Macy as he responded to one of several violent altercations while working a Chippewa Street detail Saturday night. The footage makes it clear that the Deputy Commissioner was leading from the front and responding to an intense physical altercation between multiple individuals, including the woman who was pushed back as she attempted to re-engage with other individuals involved in the altercation. As with all use of force instances between an officer and a civilian, this interaction has been referred to the Internal Affairs Division for standard review. Buffalo Police and the Ryan administration are reviewing additional security measures and policy changes for the Chippewa Entertainment District as we work with confronting this unacceptable violence. Common Council members who spoke with the news on Tuesday said they share Shields' concern about the video, but cautioned against rushing to judgment before the full context of the situation is understood. Fillmore District Council member Mitchell Nowakowski, whose district includes the Downtown Entertainment District, said he has yet to receive a full briefing from Mayor Sean Ryan's administration on the incident, but he said he has been told that a large brawl took place just prior to the moment the woman was shoved, and that the woman may have been involved in the fight. I have been in correspondence and waiting for clarity in a briefing from the administration and the police commissioner to review more footage to see more of the totality of what occurred and then form an opinion, Nowakowski said. But my initial reaction was concern. Council Majority Leader Leah Halton Pope also described the video as concerning, but said she has known Macy to be level-headed throughout her time working with him. She said she, too, would wait to find out what happened before and after the short clip before offering further comment. I'm careful to make sure we wait to get all the facts, she said. In addition to several fights over the weekend, a 17-year-old was shot in the back in the early morning hours Sunday on Pearl Street. An 18-year-old suspect was arrested and police recovered 4 loaded guns, including a ghost gun, a Palmetto State Armory pistol, a Glock 43, and a Glock 19, loaded with a total of 45 rounds across all recovered weapons. Nowakowski said he has been working with police, the administration, and business owners to improve safety and the experience in the entertainment district, as nightlife is an important part of the local economy for Buffalo and other cities. But teenagers flooding the district on weekends have created an unsafe environment. So you see hundreds of young people who are parking their cars in parking lots, drinking in the parking lots, creating fistfights, loitering, deterring from anything positive that is occurring on the street, Nowakowski said. Nowakowski said police have diverted great manpower and resources to B District, which is responsible for downtown, but the extra resources still have not been enough to tamp down on the chaos and violence. My initial reaction is concerned, but I'm going to wait on the complete context of what happened, Nowakowski said, because I do not know that 7-round clips don't tell the entire story. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. Labor deal shows big improvement in the relationship. Leaders from the town of Tonawanda and the union that represents rank and file police officers launched a new labor agreement as a sign of how much their relationship has improved following a divisive 2025. The town board on Monday approved the new contract with the town of Tonawanda Police Club. The 4-year agreement is retroactive to January 1st and runs through December 31st, 2029. It includes annual raises of roughly 4%, but saves the town money on retiree health insurance benefits for officers hired in the future, according to the town. It's not only fair to the police officers, it's also good for the taxpayers, Tonawanda Supervisor John Flynn said in an interview Tuesday. Town and union leaders say the contract agreement shows both sides have managed to move on from the rift that grew between them in early 2025. That's when Tonawanda officials accused police officers of engaging in an illegal ticket strike, a claim denied by the union. Tension between town and union officials lingered for months, but Police Lieutenant Will Langman, the police club president, said the parties had repaired their relationship and the contract reflects this. I think it shows the trust that the town board and supervisor have in the police department and its members, Langman said. And obviously we can't forget what happened last year, but we need to learn from the past and make sure those issues never rise again. The conflict between the two sides dated to January 2025 when town officials said they believe dozens of officers stopped writing tickets for a 3-week stretch. Town leaders say officers were protesting discipline imposed on an officer who later resigned from the department. Police union representatives denied officers took part in an illegal job action, arguing winter weather and required training sessions were behind any lower ticket counts. Tonawanda officers and their allies packed town board meetings in early 2025 and used online posts to push back against the town's efforts to discipline them. The dispute brought into public view officers' frustrations with then Police Chief James Stoffinger, but town officials staunchly backed the chief. The town board filed charges with the police club against the police club with the state public employment relations board, accusing officers of violating state law that prohibits strikes by public sector employees in a job action condoned by the union. PERB in October concluded the town police club had engaged in a strike. The agency approved a settlement agreement between the town and the police club that imposed financial penalties on officers and the union. This settlement was an indication of improved relations between the parties. By early this year, Stoffinger had retired and new police chief Corey Flatto taking his place, and Officer Andy Thompson, who led the police club throughout 2025, left that post at the end of the year with Loggeman replacing him. Negotiations for the new police contract began under longtime Tonawanda Supervisor Joseph Eminger, and the sides had made good progress in the months before and after the contract's January 1st expiration, officials said. In a surprise, Eminger this spring announced he would step down in May. Flynn took over as supervisor and oversaw the final stages of contract negotiations. I think we're in a good spot, and I think I walked into a good spot, Flynn told the Buffalo News. But this getting done now, just in my opinion, memorializes the healing that has taken place over the course of the past year. The contract approved Monday approves annual raises of 4%, 3.75%, 3.75%, and 4% through 2029, Flynn said. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Health science is taking another big step forward. Charter school builds off its success and continues to grow. Sometimes the role of school teacher veers from academic strategy and expanding program. For Robert Baxter, head of school at Health Sciences Charter School, leading his school's major development has meant a foray into uncharted territory. I don't feel like an educator, Baxter said last week. I feel like I'm Bob the Builder. Health Sciences Charter School this fall will add kindergarten and 7th grade and to its arsenal. The first time in its 16-year history, it will offer grade levels other than high school. The new grades represent the first major step toward evolving the charter into a kindergarten through 12th grade school, which will require a larger physical footprint. The first step is complete. Baxter said Health Sciences has reached an agreement to open the 3 new grade levels inside the former Catholic Academy of West Buffalo at 1069 Delaware Avenue, which is vacated following the elementary school's announcement last February that it would close at the end of this school year. Health Sciences was formally approved in May by its authorizer, the State Board of Regents, to revise its charter to add kindergarten through 2nd grade as well as 7th and 8th grades by 28-29. They will grow overall enrollment from 480 students to 880. Baxter said health sciences is adding 3 of those grades immediately, and he is confident the authorizer will accommodate grades 3 through 6 to complete the track. In long-term plans, Baxter said the Catholic Academy building is expected to hold health sciences kindergarten through 4th grade, while the current high school will eventually focus on 5th through 8th grade. High school students will move to a new innovation center to be built at 1291 Main Street next to a new gymnasium. Baxter did not give a definitive timeline. When I surveyed the kids, they weren't talking about, I want to be a doctor, Baxter said, referring to his early stint at the school's assistant principal and athletic director more than a decade ago. They were like, I want better basketball, coach. Why can't we play football? The larger purpose remains to chip away at the ever-increasing demand for healthcare professionals, but students who attend health sciences are not pigeonholed into those fields even if exposure to them is part of their studies. When you walk into a hospital, Baxter explained, there are a lot of careers in that hospital. Long-term plan. For all but the first year, Health Sciences Charter School has educated high school students from all over the city at 1140 Elkins Street, about a mile north of the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. Since its first graduating class in 2014, the school has maintained a graduation rate of above 80%, but it has risen to another level since 2020, finishing all but one of those years with a graduation rate above 90%. While he said he is proud of that success, Baxter said the expansion should allow more students to begin exploring career interests through dual enrollment and internship opportunities in their junior and senior years. By adding middle school grades, health sciences can focus those years on helping students get ahead on state requirements, leaving greater scheduling flexibility for the final years of high school. When students in my school get to their senior year, I would prefer that they would spend the majority of their time on a college campus and at internships, Baxter said. Not all of health sciences partnerships are connected to higher education entities. A question posed to the community a few years ago gave Baxter confidence that earlier grades were desirable in health sciences, which is referred to casually as big health. We put something out there about little health, like, if we started this, who would be interested? Baxter said. When I say it went viral, I never saw something with so many comments and so much interest with not one negative comment. If Health Sciences Plan comes to fruition, it will join Tapestry and Buff Science as the only city charter schools that offer kindergarten through 12th grade. A larger decentralized campus means more opportunity for students, but also a new set of challenges, like the state assessments for grades 3 through 8. Baxter believes health sciences students can rise to the occasion. When you hold them to a certain standard, he said, it's been our experience that they measure up to it. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 10:18. On to sports. The Bills, deep concern. The Buffalo Bills got a taste last year of what it's like to be without both Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. The team's starters at left and right tackle, respectively, missed the Week 13 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers because of injury, while the coaching staff and replacements Alec Anderson and Ryan Vandermark did yeoman's work in that game. Life after Dawkins and Brown is not something the Bills want to start thinking about. The team's top 2 tackles rank number 2 and number 6, respectively, on the team's list of top salary cap hits for 2026. Dawkins comes in at $24.875 million, behind only quarterback Josh Allen, while Brown is number 6 at $8.97 million. That's a good reflection of their importance to keeping Allen upright and healthy, which obviously benefits the entire offense. Dawkins is entering his age 32 season and is signed through 2027, while Brown is 28 years old and signed through 2028. The immediate future is secure as long as they stay healthy, but it's not too early to start looking a little bit further down the road. Most impact off-season move, not matching Ryan Van DeMark's offer sheet. Vandermark 28 had appeared in 43 games over the past 3 seasons with 6 starts after spending the 2022 season on the practice squad. Originally a rookie undrafted free agent of the Colts in 2022, Vandermark came to Buffalo after being waived by Indianapolis at the end of training camp in 2022. The past 2 seasons he primarily served as swing tackle behind Dawkins and Brown on game days. Vandermark received an offer sheet as a restricted free agent from the Minnesota Vikings worth $4.2 million for 1 season. The Bills would have preferred to match it, but unfortunately that was too much to pay for a reserve player, given how tight against the salary cap the team was at the time. It's a nice payday for Vandermark, who worked hard to earn his spot in the NFL and was well liked inside the Bills' locker room. Biggest question to answer in camp: is Spencer Brown healthy? The veteran right tackle recently revealed that a minor knee surgery was the reason he missed time during the spring. Brown is optimistic he'll be ready for the start of training camp, but given his importance to the offense, there is at least a chance the Bills will take it slow with him in the summer. While Brown has rarely missed significant game action, he has had a few minor injuries that have kept him out of the lineup. He has also had back surgery during his recovery, but was able to make a full recovery. Depth behind Dawkins and Brown will be at least a bit of a concern entering camp, so the Bills will want to do everything possible to keep them healthy. Battle to watch: Tylan Grable versus Jude Bowery. Vandermark's departure leaves a big hole in the Bills' projected 46-man game day roster. Grable, a 6th-round draft pick in 2024, worked his way into rotation at swing tackle as a rookie, but suffered a concussion late in the summer that landed him on injured reserve. He wasn't activated to the 53-man roster until Week 13 game against Pittsburgh. His only playing time for the season came in a relatively meaningless Week 18 game against the Jets. Grable was a healthy and active during the playoffs. Bowery, meanwhile, was a 4th-round pick of the Bills in April, so the team has high hopes he can develop into a steady contributor, even if that's not the starting role right away. And under-the-radar player is Lunt. He spent his entire college career at University of Connecticut playing right tackle, but the Bills experimented with Lunt playing some guard last year during the preseason. Versatility was never a bad thing for an offensive lineman, so if he can continue to show that during training camp he could possibly force the team to consider carrying 9 or even 10 offensive linemen on the 53-man roster. That might squeeze a couple other positions, but it's always a risk to waive a promising offensive lineman because of their scarcity around the league. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Turning to hockey, Sabres hire Columbus John Davidson as senior advisor. The Buffalo Sabres are adding another Columbus Blue Jackets connection to their front office staff. The Sabres announced Monday afternoon that they have hired John Davidson as senior advisor. Davidson is a former NHL goaltender who has worked for 20 years in NHL front offices, including 18 seasons as president of hockey operations with the Blue Jackets, St. Louis Blues, and New York Rangers. Davidson, 73, was most recently a senior advisor and alternate governor with the Blue Jackets and was working in a limited role with Columbus. I am excited to join the Buffalo Sabres and look forward to the opportunity to help the organization in any way I can, Davidson said in a statement released Monday by the Sabres. The momentum in Buffalo is palpable throughout the entire league, and the passion from Sabres fans makes this opportunity all the more exciting. I look forward to continuing the relationships with many in the Sabres front office and building new ones in this role, all with the goal of contributing to a winning culture. Davidson, 73, has spent 20 years in NHL front officers, including 18 seasons as president with the Blues, 2006-12, Blue Jackets, 2012-19, and Rangers, 2019-21. He was also president of hockey operations for the Blue Jackets from 21-24 and transitioned into senior advisor/alternate governor role with the Blue Jackets in May 2024. Coincidentally, Davidson hired Jarmo Kekalainen as the Blue Jackets general manager in February 2013. Kekalainen also worked with Davidson in St. Louis front office. Davidson also replaced Kekalainen as Columbus's interim general manager in February 2024 after the Blue Jackets fired Kekalainen. Kekalainen became general manager of the Sabres in December 2025 after joining the Sabres as a senior advisor in May of last year. Jarmo evolves, Davidson told the Buffalo News in June 2025. He understands that times change. He's a person who really enjoys when times are changing. He wants to stay up and stay ahead of that change. He's open-minded to every aspect of the sport, analytics, scouting, and I know he's close to companies in Finland that are world-class who are really into those things and know how to gather information. He's worked on that a lot, talking to NFL teams, to pro soccer teams. He's one of those guys who wants to understand the future and looks at it closely. Davidson is also a 10-year NHL veteran. He was a goaltender with the Blues and Rangers from 73 to 83. He worked in broadcasting and was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame as the 2009 recipient of the Foster Hewitt Memorial Award. The Columbus Dispatch reported that Davidson's contract with the Blue Jackets expired June 30th. John and I have a strong working relationship and we've developed over many years, Kekalainen said in a statement released Monday by the Sabres. His experience leading multiple organizations combined with his player evaluation skills and relationships around the NHL make him a great fit for this role. We will lend his expertise and guidance to all areas within the hockey department as we continue to improve our club. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. For high school sports, the National Federation of State High School Associations had made changes in certain sports, either indefinitely or just for the upcoming season. Here's a look at what's to come for baseball and softball. In baseball, teams will have a new safety option starting next season, an 18-inch first base offered as an alternative to the double first base set to become mandatory in 2027. The NFHS Baseball Rules Committee approved the change as part of the 7 rules revisions finalized last month. Both base options are designed to cut down on collisions at first, according to Elliot Hopkins, the NFHS Director of Sports and Liaison to the committee, who said the flexibility gives administrators the chance to enhance player safety while recognizing the varying needs and resources of member schools. Coaches can now call pitches electronically to the pitcher or catcher, provided they remain in the dugout. Eye shade must be a solid color with no logos or lettering. A new tiebreaker option lets teams start extra half innings with a runner on second base. Starting in 2028, USA Baseball will oversee bat certification standards, adding a new class of approved non-wood bats as USA Baseball and the NFHS Rules Committee adopted the newly renamed US BBCOR to standard and expanded permitted drop weights to include US bat -4, -5, and -6. And in softball, pitchers will join catchers as the only players allowed to receive one-way electronic communication from the dugout starting with the 2027 season, a change aimed at speeding up pitch call delivery. The update was one of 4 rule changes approved by the NFHS Softball Rules Committee following its June meeting based on data collected from state association administrators. The committee also simplified the courtesy runner rule, eliminating a requirement that the starting pitcher and the catcher face the first batter of the game. Additional changes give state associations flexibility to set their own umpire uniform standards and clarify the definition of an initial play for consistency across the rule book. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. How Portville's Yell became an MLB draft pick. The first few times West Virginia coach Steve Saban saw Portville's Max Yell pitch was via video. Years before the Kansas City Royals selected Yell in the 3rd round of Saturday's MLB draft, Saban streamed baseball games during COVID to watch the lefty pitch in 2024. Saban's first impressions of Yell, who was 15 years old then, was a big, gangly, unsure pitcher who didn't know where the ball was going and had a really high upside as far as stuff. A WVU assistant before being promoted to head coach in 2024 and being named the 2026 NCBWA Mike Martin National Coach of the Year during the Mountaineers' 47-17 First Men's College World Series appearance. Saban's watched Yell through a screen many times before meeting him in person. Though Yell's recruitment, his recovery from Tommy John surgery, and the choice to turn down an MLB contract to raise his draft stock as a redshirt junior, Sabins has been there. Yell was named the Big 12 Pitcher of the Year, a unanimous All-American, and was a finalist for National Pitcher of the Year after going 9-3 with a .213 ERA during WVU's 26th season. Sabins described Yell as a fun, loving, confident, and great teammate with good energy who doesn't take himself too seriously outside of competing, Sabins said. Yell was really excited when they talked after the draft. He has made gigantic strides, and a big piece of that has been his mental and social maturity, as well as physical maturity, Sabins said. Yell bet on himself. Yell returned home to Portville to watch the MLB draft with his family and girlfriend on Saturday. ESPN ranked Yell as the 161st best draft prospect, but he was selected with the 91st overall pick in the third round. He bet on himself and returned to West Virginia for that very moment. I think it was a great day for him, Sabins said. Yell could have signed an MLB contract last summer following his 2024 sophomore season at WVU and an impressive performance in the Cape Cod League that summer. The Portville pitcher had Tommy John surgery. He sat out the entire 2025 season, but impressed MLB teams enough that they asked to watch him throw bullpens in July 2025. Sabins said an MLB team offered Yell a contract, but he made a tough decision by turning it down to return to West Virginia for a historic run through the NCAA Division I baseball tournament. I got offered an opportunity to sign a professional contract while he was injured, but decided to turn that down and come back to school and bet on himself and get healthy, and the rest is history, Sabins said. What did MLB scouts like about Yell during his 2024 Cape Cod League stint? They loved his 6'6" frame and how he frequently produced outs and strikeouts, developing great stuff with high velocity. Yell's throwing angle is unique as he steps across his body and his front foot lands in front of his back foot while pitching. I think a lot of it has to do with his size, Sabins said, and the angle at which he throws is unique. The command with the velocity and the angle at which he pitches is very difficult on batters. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 10:32. Asking Eric. Neighbors react badly to person on autism spectrum. Dear Eric, I live with autism spectrum disorder and have been in regular independent housing since I was 19. I'm 55 and I've managed to work full-time for almost 10 years in spite of previous employment where I was harassed due to discrimination because of my neurodiversity. I'm settled in a new career with an accommodating environment that's autism-friendly and understanding bosses and colleagues. So my problem isn't work, it's my neighbors that are the issue. For the past year and a half that I've lived where I am, I have faced nothing but rudeness. People look at me funny and ask me if I'm okay. When I ask them why, they say I appear fidgety. These comments come mainly from older men, and it's nasty and irritating. I've made every effort through ongoing therapy to control it, and I do keep it to a minimum. I refuse to be medicated due to my extreme sensitivity to side effects. I've been on it for years, and I have missed many sunrises because of the heavy drowsiness that was a side effect. Last night I went off on a guy for making a nasty comment about how I made him nervous. I didn't make any eye contact and didn't say anything except hello when he got on the elevator. I was so furious. I've put up with prejudiced comments regarding my neurodiversity, and I just wanted to stop. Any advice on how to tune out ignorant neighbors who refuse to shut up? I'm thinking headphones as one solution, since hearing those condescending comments really trigger my hot temper. From Not From Outer Space. Dear Not From Outer Space, I'm sorry you have to deal with these unkind neighbors. There's nothing wrong with fidgeting, and you don't owe anyone an explanation simply for living your life. Headphones are a great option, especially ones that are more visible rather than earbuds. Some people also like to wear a button that lets people know how you want to be interacted with. The goal is your comfort rather than bending yourself to the wants of strangers. So think about what will make your life easier as you go to and from your home. It sounds like these interactions may be contributing to the feeling of overload. That's not good for you and it's not what you want, so you should feel empowered to take proactive steps so that you feel most comfortable and can plan to avoid them. Dear Eric, I am a single person with 9 nieces and nephews ranging in age from 16 to 40. I have a sizable estate, some of which I would like to leave to them. Unfortunately, the 2 oldest ones have situations where I'm not sure I want to leave them anything. They are the children of my sibling to whom I am closest, a sibling who also does favors for me. The oldest is living at home and unemployed and has no consistent work history. The second oldest is financially set and does not need any money. How do I navigate this situation with my sibling? I suspect there will be hard feelings if the 2 are out of my will. I am grateful for the help this sibling provides, but do I reward the 2 children because of the sibling's help to me from estate division? Dear estate, as I like to say, money talks, but it mumbles. So it's helpful to be clear with yourself and those you leave it to about what you're trying to do or say with an inheritance. Of course, you're under no obligation to leave anything to anyone. You can divvy up your estate any way you see fit. But it's not clear to me what you're trying to accomplish by leaving out the oldest 2. In the case of the unemployed one, it seems you don't want to reward a lack of initiative, but with the other, it seems you don't want to reward an appropriate amount of initiative. This would be confusing for everyone. If there's enough to go around, what's the harm in leaving something to everyone as a gesture of your love, even if the amounts are different? Think about what you want your money to accomplish after you're gone. You can't compel someone to work or to work harder by giving them money or withholding it from them, not effectively at least. But if you're concerned about hurt feelings, as you say you are, it's best to have any conversations you want to have now. Any of your nieces and nephews would turn out to be good or poor stewards of your estate. If there's something you want them to do or something you want your money to do, you should try to put that into motion now. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Feds say priest in child porn arrest had dark fantasies. A Catholic priest turned to crystal meth and watching child sex abuse images as he fell into despair after the diocese suspended him in 2019, lawyers told a federal magistrate judge on Monday. It took global cooperation to find him in his Lackawanna home. A referral from law enforcement in Scotland prompted the investigation here into Jeffrey Nowak, who was ordered detained Monday on charges he received and possessed child sex abuse images. The FBI partners with law enforcement agencies in 176 countries throughout the world and all 50 states, said Alan D. Davis II, special agent in charge of the FBI's Buffalo field office. You know, a lot of times someone may be detected committing a crime that is in a different country, Davis said. They don't get a free pass, so when that happens, we all work together to get that evidence where it needs to go so that person can be charged. The evidence put before U.S. Magistrate Judge Michael J. Romer at Nowak's detention hearing was disturbing. In messages the FBI agents found on his messaging apps, Nowak expressed a deep, dark, sadistic fantasy to rape and torture minor children, including his own nieces and nephews, said Assistant U.S. Attorney Aaron Mango. Mango said Nowak sent photos of his sister's young children to pedophiles. Videos found on a USB storage device that Nowak kept in a Bible case showed toddlers being sexually assaulted, Mango said. FBI agents who searched Nowak's house found crystal meth in a chalice with communion wafers, the prosecutor said. Agents found jugs of urine in Nowak's bedroom, apparently because he did not want to go downstairs to the bathroom when participating in group Zoom calls during which members viewed and shared child sexual abuse images, Mango said. The FBI's review of Nowak's online activity also found messages from him supporting the White Power movement as he shared with others the writings of Peyton Gendron, who pleaded guilty to a racist attack that killed 10 people at a Tops supermarket in May of 2022, Mango said. It's clear he idolizes Peyton Gendron, Mango said. When FBI agents arrived at Nowak's home, they knocked on the door for 5 minutes and tried to reach him by phone. When they finally breached the door, he was coming down a stairway naked, apparently having watched the images as the FBI was outside his door last Wednesday, Mango said. Assistant Federal Public Defender John J. Morrissey urged the judge to release him from jail with strict conditions, including home confinement, so that Nowak can get the mental and drug treatment he needs. There is zero evidence that Mr. Nowak ever put his hands on a child, Morrissey said. Unassignable priest. But Romer said Nowak's threats to his sister and young relatives poses a real danger and is a risk too great for the court to accept. Also, Nowak lives in a home across the street from a high school and close to a children's center, the judge noted. Romer also noted the incriminating statements Nowak made to the FBI before and after he submitted to a polygraph exam at the FBI's Buffalo office. He has lived alone since 2020 in the home owned by his father, but being paid by the diocese since he was put on leave in 2019, Nowak told agents, according to Mango. I'm retired now, but I'm still on the payroll, Nowak said, according to Mango. Nowak told FBI agents he has been unassignable since being put on leave, saying he can't be placed in a parish. Diocese spokesman Gregory Tucker told the news that Nowak is not a retired priest, but has been on leave. It was made clear to him that there was no possibility for him to be reassigned to active ministry, Tucker said. A former Christ the King seminary student accused Nowak of violating the Catholic Church's seal of confession, sexual harassment, and attempted blackmail, which Nowak denied through his attorney in 2019. The Erie County District Attorney's Office investigated the criminal allegations but found no crimes had been committed. When then Bishop Richard Malone put Nowak on administrative leave, Nowak was not accused of engaging in sexual misconduct with a child, Tucker said. But Nowak's behavior made it very clear that he was not suitable for active ministry, and so he was placed on leave, Tucker said. After Bishop Michael W. Fisher replaced Malone, he met with Nowak and confirmed that Nowak would not resume liturgical duties, Tucker said. Canon law requires that a bishop provide minimal level of financial support to priests who have been placed on leave but are still technically priests, Tucker said. Nowak was receiving a minimal monthly stipend, which was much less than an active priest and also less than a retired priest, Tucker said. The diocese strongly requested that he seek professional treatment and counseling, Tucker said. The diocese persisted, but at no time did he follow through with that, which only reinforced the diocese's decision and determination that he was not a candidate to be reassigned to active ministry, Tucker said. Whereas in the past there were insufficient grounds to initiate the process of laicization, Bishop Fisher has now instructed the diocese's judicial vicar to gather the necessary documentation based on these latest allegations to petition the Vatican's dicastery for the doctrine of the faith to dismiss Jeffrey Nowak from the clerical state, Tucker said. In a dark place. Nowak's public defender said Nowak has been in a dark place for several years, his mental health spiraling into crisis as he grappled with a future without a role in the church. His entire identity revolved around the church, Morrissey said. Nowak talked to FBI agents about the dark path I've taken responsible to the stress of my life, Mango said. Nowak, through his lawyer, denied being a racist. Nowak admitted to agents that he used the Zoom calls to see child abuse images, Mango said. He told agents he shared child sex abuse images between 50 and 100 times, but not every time he was asked to during the Zoom calls. Romer said that as a judge he has handled many court proceedings involving defendants accused of possessing child sex abuse images, but called Nowak's case the first time I've heard this Zoom thing. The accusations in the criminal complaint against Nowak reveal how much more sophisticated the exchange of child sex abuse images has become, said U.S. Attorney Michael DiGiacomo. As technologies advance and you have these encrypted apps, and now where individuals can participate in these sessions, it makes it much more difficult to sometimes find these folks, he said. but the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office, among other agencies, have worked to stay up with the technology because we know that individuals who engage in this type of activity are in fact going to use this type of technology, so we need to stay up to date, Giacomo said. In late 2025, the FBI received a referral from law enforcement in Scotland about a Telegram group whose members participated in group Zoom calls during which members viewed and shared child sexual abuse images, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Investigators linked one of the participants to the username Pigboy666, which was later identified as NOAC. A Zoom call on September 7, 2025 was accessed by 69 to 73 participants, including the Pigboy666 username associated with NOAC, according to the criminal complaint against NOAC 46. When there's a crime committed, especially of the magnitude and nature, it's not uncommon for law enforcement throughout the country, throughout the world, to share information saying, hey, you might have some bad actors in your backyard that you might want to take a look at, Giacomo said. The FBI investigated into NOAC did not begin with his name, but an IP address. That unique numerical label assigned to every piece connected to a computer network that reveals an approximate geographic location and the internet service provider providing the connection. We don't know who that individual is because we're all dealing with, at this point, is generally IP addresses, Giacomo said. So we have to start walking back to determine who it is. So when that first set of data or information comes across, we don't know that person, what their occupation is, what they do for a living. In cases involving computers, law enforcement officials subpoena IP addresses information from providers who then provide additional information and ultimately the suspect's email address. Attempts will be made to identify the children in these images. He said, they're all over the country, Giacomo said, because it was an international lead. I would imagine there's going to be victims that are from countries around the world. Linda?
Thank you, Larry. Justices warn about threats made against them in rare Hill appearance. In a rare appearance before Congress, Supreme Court justices sought more security funding on Tuesday and warned of a sharp rise in threats against them, with Justice Amy Coney Barrett recounting being sent home with a bulletproof vest and targeted in a recent swatting hoax. Barrett and fellow Justice Elaine Kagan urged lawmakers to approve the roughly 10% budget increase for the court, with Kagan saying the Supreme Court police force expects a 38% increase in threats this year following a 25% rise last year. For some of us, those threats have come very close, Kagan told his House subcommittee. Their appearance was a first before Congress by sitting justices since 2019, excluding Senate confirmation hearings for nominees. Bulletproof vest issued. In personal terms, Barrett told lawmakers about some of the threats she and her family have encountered, emphasizing how they have affected her children. She said that when threats intensified after the leak in 2022 of a draft of the court's ruling overturning Roe v. Wade, the landmark 1973 decision that guaranteed the right to abortion nationwide, her security detail sent her home with a bulletproof vest, prompting her then 12-year-old son to ask what it was. I didn't expect that performing this service was going to put me in a position of explaining to my children what a bulletproof vest was and why I had to wear one. Barrett also recounted being a target of so-called swatting attack roughly 6 weeks ago, during which officers responded to a false report alleging gunshots and raised voices coming from her home. In her first public comments on the matter, she said one of her teenage sons opened the door to leave the house and was confronted by a large police presence outside. The justice said she was grateful that Supreme Court police were stationed outside her residence because they were able to intercept responding local officers and explain that the emergency report was fraudulent. Numerous federal judges have also received an unsolicited pizza delivered to their homes in the name of U.S. District Judge Esther Salas' son, who was fatally shot in 2020 by a disgruntled lawyer who went to her New Jersey home. Many of us, me included, have received threatening, anonymous deliveries designed to intimidate and harass us, Barrett said. I believe the message on these deliveries being sent in his name is clear, Barrett said. 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court ended a 9-month term highlighted by legal disputes involving President Trump and his administration. The court has backed major elements of Trump's expansive use of executive authority. The court's 6-3 conservative majority has reshaped U.S. law with landmark rulings on abortion, presidential power, and other contentious issues while facing sustained ethics scrutiny and a decline in public approval. It's got to stop. According to the data from the U.S. Marshal Service, nearly 400 judges faced threats last year, and 276 have been targeted this year as of July 1st. Barrett, one of Trump's 3 conservative appointees, and Kagan, one of 3 liberal justices, defended to courts nearly $230 million request for the next fiscal year, roughly a 10% increase from this year. In March, Chief Justice John Roberts said hostility directed in personal terms at judges is dangerous and it's got to stop, commenting just days after Trump issued a social media broadside against judges who ruled against him and his administration. Roberts' remarks followed his 2024 end-of-the-year report, highlighting a significant uptick in identified threats at all levels of the judiciary over recent years. In one of the most high-profile incidents, a California resident appeared near Justice Brett Kavanaugh's Maryland home in 2022 armed with a handgun. Sophie Rosk pleaded guilty to attempted assassination and was sentenced in 2025 to 8 years in federal prison. And ethics panel differences. Amid ethics scrutiny, the Supreme Court in 2023 adopted its first code of conduct, though critics said it lacked meaningful enforcement because it left recusal decisions to the justices themselves and created no enforcement mechanism. Kagan reiterated on Tuesday her support for creating a judicial panel to enforce the justices' compliance with the court's ethics code, saying such a mechanism would help ensure public confidence in the court. The justices are taking the code seriously and making every effort, I think successful efforts, to live by it, she added. Barrett said she was less certain about the need to create a means to enforce the ethics code, citing various complexities such as who would select the members of the enforcement panel. Questions have persisted over the conduct of some justices, including Justice Samuel Alito and Justice Clarence Thomas. Alito told the New York Times that an upside-down U.S. flag displayed outside of one of his homes after the 2020 election was placed there by his wife during a dispute with a neighbor over a sign on the neighbor's lawn critical of then-President Trump. The inverted flag became a symbol of protest by Trump supporters as he sought to overturn his 2020 loss to Democrat Joe Biden with false claims of widespread voting fraud. Thomas has defended his not disclosing luxury trips paid for by Republican mega donor Harlan Crow, saying he believed they qualified as exempt personal hospitality, and has described the omission of the real estate transaction involving Crow from disclosure forms as inadvertent. Larry?
Thank you, Linda. Reflecting pool drained again, in service soon, Trump says. President Trump said the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool was drained Monday to make repairs and it will be refilled and put back into service soon, again claiming that vandals gashed the pool's lining. CNN observed that much of the water had been drained, revealing dried sediment, algae, and some debris on what was supposed to be a freshly renovated landmark painted what Trump previously called American flag blue. Since Trump called for the pool's renovation in April, the more than $14 million project has been plagued by massive algae blooms, green-hued water, a chipping bottom, and allegations of vandalism. The president said Monday night on Truth Social, "We drained the beautiful reflecting pool today in order to fix the scars and damage that was done by the vandals 2 weeks ago. The slashes were 300 yards long and the floor of the pool was cut and then pulled upward with great force by these thugs," Trump said in the Post. Trump's latest claim that the gashes in the lining were 300 yards long, which would be 900 feet or the length of 3 football fields, is considerably longer than his past claims, which have increased in length several times. He first called it a 250-foot cut and later claimed there were actually numerous slashes over a very long 350-foot length. A CNN crew visited the pool late Monday afternoon and did not notice any obvious signs of long gashes in the recently installed lining, but they were not able to access the full length of the pool because of fencing that had been installed around much of the landmark. CNN has reached out to the Department of Interior, the National Park Service, and U.S. Park Police to ask if they found evidence of gashes in the pool, lining that now most of the pool has been drained. The Parks Department had to empty the water in order to fix the watertight basin. And, in an aside, televised address, President Donald Trump will address the nation at 9 p.m. EDT Thursday about newly declassified intelligence on investigations into U.S. elections and what the White House says are voting machine vulnerabilities, an administration official said. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Wednesday, July 15th, 2026. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, please call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
Linda Ranella.
and Larry Beenan. Thank you for listening, and please continue to stay safe.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. vision, or have another print